Hi everybody, so today's video is going to be about task 4.1, which is going to be all about simplifying an expression. So the learning target for today is I can apply properties of operations, which means adding, subtracting, and multiplication, to linear expressions to find equivalent expressions. In other words, let's simplify expressions to find other expressions that are simpler, but still have the same value they're equal to the original. Now, in today's notes, I'm going to ask you to actually start on page 2. So we're going to start with reviewing a couple ways that we've learned how to simplify an expression. The first thing that we've learned before is called distributing. Now, we're going to know that we should distribute when there is a number outside of a parentheses. When we distribute, we are doing multiplication. So when I see a problem like this, where there's a number outside the parentheses, I'm going to multiply by whatever's inside. Think about this as passing out that number, so distributing, like when your teacher distributes a pile of papers. 3 times x would be 3x. Now separately, I would also distribute to the negative 4, and 3 times negative 4 would be negative 12. So that's a quick review of what we've learned before, which is where we are distributing, which means multiply. Another thing that we've learned before is combining like terms. Now, when we're combining like terms, we are adding or subtracting. So like terms are going to be either plain old numbers that are by themselves or terms that have the same variables. So for example, they might both have an x. An example would be, in this problem, the 4x and the positive 5x are like terms. Now you'll notice I was really careful to make sure I included the plus 5 with the 5x. That plus belongs to the 5. When I combine these, 4 plus 5 would be 9x. There are actually some more like terms here. If I combine the negative 7 and the positive 2, negative 7 plus 2 would be negative 5. So there were 2 different pairs of like terms, and we combined them by adding or subtracting. The new way that we're going to simplify, so something we haven't done before, but that is new in this unit, is that we're going to simplify big division problems. When we are dividing, and you see that there's more than one term in the numerator, and you're dividing by a number, what we're going to do to simplify this is actually break this up into 2 problems. So we're going to divide 15x divided by 5, and then separately, we are also going to divide negative 20 divided by 5. Now let's do that one at a time. If I do 15 divided by 5, I get 3x. And if I do negative 20 divided by 5, I get negative 4. So my simplified expression would be 3x minus 4. The big rule here when you're dividing is that you just divide each separately. So let's try this one more time. Because this is a new thing, let's do it one more time. In the second problem, we're going to split this up into 2 division problems, negative 18 divided by negative 2, and 20 divided by negative 2. Now, negative 18x divided by negative 2 would be 9x, and the reason this is positive is that 2 negatives divided make a positive, and then positive 20 divided by negative 2 would be negative 10. And there you go, you've divided, you've simplified by dividing. Now, the big goal here is going to be to know which of these things to do in a problem so that you can simplify it completely. So let's go ahead and try problems 1, 2, 3, and 4 to make sure that we know how to simplify completely. So in problem number 1, the first thing that I know that I need to do is distribute. And the reason that I know that I'm going to distribute is because there is a parentheses in this problem. So the first step is going to be distribute that number. So 3 times 4x would be 12x, and 3 times negative 7 would be negative 21. Then I would ask myself, is there anything else I can do here to simplify? Well, there are no like terms, and the reason that there are no like terms is that this guy has an x and this guy doesn't, and there's nothing to divide, so I'm done. I've simplified this as much as I can. In problem number 2, which is a little bit of a different problem, I can see that it's a little bit longer of an expression. There's more stuff going on. I'm still going to start by distributing. So I'm going to take this negative 5 and I'm going to multiply by 2x, which gives me negative 10x. And then I'm going to take negative 5 and multiply by 8, which gives me negative 40. Now, with that 10 that's originally at the beginning, I'm just going to drop it like it's hot. Don't change it, don't simplify it, just copy it down, and we'll deal with it in the next step. Now, in this problem, if I ask myself, are there any like terms? There sure are. So in the next step, I'm going to combine the like terms. In this problem, the 10 and the negative 40 are like terms. So 10 minus 40 would give me negative 30. And then because the negative 10x doesn't have any like terms to combine with, we're just going to drop it like it's hot. Just copy it down. Now I'm finished simplifying this expression because there are no other like terms, there's nothing to distribute, and there's nothing to divide. Let's go ahead and try number 3. So in number 3, this looks like a big division problem. So I'm going to try my dividing strategy. So 100 divided by 25, and then separately I'm also going to do negative 75 divided by 25. Now 100x divided by 25 would be 4x, and negative 75 divided by 25 would be negative 3. Now I'm going to ask myself, is there anything else that I can do here? Is there anything I can do to simplify? Well, there are no like terms and there's nothing to distribute, so I'm done. That's the end. I've simplified my expression. In problem number 4, again, I'm noticing there's this big division problem. So my first step here is going to be to divide, but I'm going to divide each top number separately. So 8x divided by 2, and then I'm also going to do 10 divided by 2. 8x divided by 2 is 4x. And 10 divided by 2 is positive 5. And then I'm just going to take this 7 and drop it down. Don't simplify, don't do anything yet. Now I'm going to ask myself, do I see any like terms? Well, yeah, I do see some like terms. So step number 2 is going to be to combine the like terms. In this problem, I see that the positive 5 and the positive 7 are like terms. So when I combine those, I get positive 12. And then with this 4x, I'm just going to take this and drop it down, and then that's the end of my simplifying problem. Now, there's one other thing in these notes that we're going to do as a brief review. So now that we've reviewed how to simplify and added one new step, let's, on the next page, do a review of solving equations. We're going to be solving a lot of equations, so I thought it might be a good idea to refresh your memory a little bit before we jump into the next type of solving problems. Whenever you're solving an equation, my strategy is to start by drawing a line through the equal sign. That reminds me that this equation is balanced. It's equal on both sides, and so when I'm solving, I need to keep it balanced by making sure that I do the same thing on both sides. Now, in order to get x by itself, the first thing here is I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. When I do that, I get that the 7 and the 7 cancel, and 13 minus 7 is 6. I'm just going to drop down the 3x. Next, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides in order to get x by itself, because division is the opposite of multiplication. So my 3's cancel, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then I'm just going to drop down my x. All right, let's try number 2. So I'm going to draw my line through my equal sign. In order to get x by itself, I'm going to start by subtracting 9 on both sides. And when I do that, the 9 and the 9 cancel. 109 minus 9 is just 100. And I'm going to drop down my negative 4x. Now again, in order to get x by itself, I need to divide. So I'm going to divide by -4 because division is the opposite of multiplication. So 100 divided by -4 would be -25. And my -4 would cancel the other -4, so I would just get x equals -25. In problem number 3, I'm going to draw my vertical line, and then I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides because subtraction is the opposite of addition. 18 minus 7 would be 11 equals -x. Now, before I keep going, I'm going to draw in that this is really an invisible -1. And the reason I'm going to draw that in is it helps to remind me that in order to get x by itself, I need to divide by -1. Because division is the opposite of multiplication. So x would be equal to 11 divided by -1, which is -11. Last but not least, problem number 4. I would start this problem by subtracting 10 on both sides. When I subtract, I get 40 minus 10 is 30. And then on the other side, the 10's cancel, so I'm just going to drop down the -6x. Next, I'm going to divide by -6. Now, 30 divided by -6 would be -5. Equals, the -6 cancels the -6 because multiplication is the inverse of, division is the inverse of multiplication, and I just get x. So this should look familiar. We've done problems like this before. This is just a review of solving. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for some practice.